I'm Eirini from Eirini Mo Asks, and I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's nice to meet you.
Same here. So I watched the film. It was really, really good, and I want a part two.
Thank you so much. That's the best compliment.
I really want to see what happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I saw the Vimeo, and in Vimeo it shows that there's a little bit more, and then I saw the titles ending. I was like, no, I want more.
That's very sweet of you. Thanks so much. Yeah.
So tell me, how did you come about writing it and directing it? Because that's your
Yeah,
first feature, isn't it?
it's my first feature. I had made a short film about the subject of teenage pregnancy a few years prior to that. But I had no intention of making a feature out of the short. And in fact, the short film was set in Russia, which is where I grew up, and it was about it was a reflection of society, but in a completely different way because it was a completely different society. But then when Roe was overturned in the US in June of 2022, I came back to my short film and it lives on this online platform called Omleto, and I browsed the comments, which were very positive, and I thought that perhaps I could come up with a story about a pregnant teenager in America that, I could do the things that were strung in the short and just make them in a feature. And so that was like the original inspiration to the movie. I mean, it was the unfortunate political turn and also just my background with having worked on this particular subject with teenagers before. That gave not only potential investors confidence, it gave me confidence, that I could do something like this.
Hmm.
Um, and so yeah, we the production was in August, September of 2023, and um, obviously it was very important for me to cast someone who was an actual teenager. And so Abby was 15 years old when we shot it, and I think absolutely killed it. And for me, it was so important to have someone who was age appropriate and specific in that way because obviously a lot of TV shows and movies, they tell stories about teenagers with actors who are at least like 5 to 10 years older than that. And in my opinion, you can really tell in the eyes, like there's
Mm.
something about her like childish look. And it also it goes both ways because on the one hand, she looks like a kid, but on the other hand, the moments that she looks like an adult or behaves like an adult are that much more powerful too. And so, yeah, finding Abby was obviously a godsend and wasn't easy. We looked at, I think hundreds, perhaps thousands of girls ultimately for this role. Originally, we thought we'd find someone in Texas. Abby was not in Texas. She was actually on a list one of our producers had for girls age 10 that were looking for 5 years prior to that. And we just realized that, the math works out that these girls are about 15 years old now. And so, sorry, we reached out to her directly. And then I spoke, and then she auditioned for us, and that's how that came about. But
Hmm.
yeah,
Because she's got a certain maturity in the role.
absolutely. I mean, to be honest, I was really afraid even before we cast Abby for how much I was gonna ask from an actor this young. Obviously there's like a huge scope of emotion that she needs to play. Um, and being so young, like you wonder where she like finds it within herself.
Mm.
And but I mean, I thought she did extremely well, and she is very mature in that regard. Like she does take a moment and really analyze and you know
Yeah, yeah. You can tell. You can totally
yeah,
tell. Like
yeah,
all the scenes that she's got, they seem so natural.
yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, yeah. Why did you pick teen pregnancy? I know you said you've done a short film about it. What was it that drove you to actually do the teen pregnancy subject?
As opposed to an adult pregnancy.
Or
Um,
any other subject? What was it about it? Because obviously, me as a viewer, like it made me think, we need a lot of sexual education at schools, at communities, as families. And when I was watching it, I was thinking, does that actually happen?
yeah, well, To be honest, that's exactly it, probably, because in the US in particular, in conservative communities, there's perhaps a disconnect, I'll put it this way, between what is expected but not taught. So like, most public schools, they don't teach sexual education except for abstinence. Um, and in fact, a lot of public schools, particularly in Texas, actually have daycares for the kids of high school students because it's, in some places it is common to have teenage pregnancy.
Hmm.
And I just find it so interesting where, you're taught abstinence, you're not taught anything else really. They find it in the internet, which is why, I had like some scenes with where they're scrolling OnlyFans, like we live in the
Yeah.
21st century. Kids are online. So they know what they find online or what their friends tell them online, which is not systematic education in any which way. So
Hmm.
they have a lot of holes in their knowledge.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I was just like really drawn to this contrast,
Hmm.
between expected and at the same time taught because if I had sexual education in the third grade. I was in third grade in Germany, so Germany was very like on it in terms of sex ed.
That's
And
good.
maybe I was too young, but at the same time there were never like, I grew up with the foundational knowledge that I
Yeah.
think is ultimately positive. And if if you expect people to not, terminate a pregnancy that they're not ready for, to my mind, and most logically, it's a question of education. But here it's neither there nor that, because
Mm.
particularly in very religious communities, the only choice perceived as correct is to keep the child.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I just think that I really just wanted to explore this give and take,
Hmm.
through the story of a teenager who
Yeah.
like has to deal with that very straight on.
And she has to deal with a lot of, she was actually ostracized from her community, her and her mum, because she
Mhm.
lost her friend or
Yeah,
friends. She was kicked out of school in essence. And then her
yeah,
mum, could not go to church, and her as well. They weren't
uh,
contributing for the Ukrainian war. So all those bad things happened to them, and you think this is really unfair.
yeah, yeah,
So so I could feel there are different themes that you wanted to bring out as well, like friendship and mother-daughter relationship. And obviously, the mother I felt was bringing things that she had from her background, although, a lot of them were wrong. And the
yeah,
girl was actually seeing those things that they were wrong. And she had the courage and the guts to actually say them.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Sometimes you have to, there's a saying in Russian that like it's like with the lips of an infant, which is like young people often say very wise things without really knowing it, just because, they're fresher on this world, and perhaps they see some things differently. So I
mhm.
guess you made me think of that. I wasn't actively thinking about this phrase when making the movie, but um yeah, she is confronted with this double standard. On the surface of it, she does everything correct given the situation, but at the same time, clearly it's not enough.
Yeah, 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 I completely agree. How did you cast about the other two roles? The boyfriend and the best friend.
The best friend was an amazing audition. We just had girls send in videotapes, and Claire Chapek, who played Miriam, sent in an audition where she used like lipstick. She was just as playful. I mean, to be honest, she like killed it immediately. It was so obvious. We had a chemistry read with her and Abby, I'm pretty sure, relatively soon after that. And the boy, Alicia Hennig, he was funny because he was actually the very first picture of a boy I had on my like visual deck, because Alicia had acted in TV shows before. He was in Rami. And he was an actor I had seen, and I thought he was kind of like the perfect type of boy, because both charming and not like your young lead in a traditional high school rom-com or something like that.
Mhm.
But extraordinarily charming nonetheless. And so we actually had auditioned quite a lot of boys. And once again, I thought maybe we could find someone in Texas. But ultimately, we reached out to Alicia to audition because my one of my producers had done a movie with him, um, like a few months before that, so we had like access to the boy. So
Okay.
yeah,
And where can we actually watch the film now?
so it's still on the festival circuit. So it's going to
Uh-huh.
Folklorist this upcoming weekend. It's in North Carolina. And we'll see about next year. We don't know about the festivals quite yet, but we're expecting to be on the festival circuit for a few more months for sure.
Okay, okay, that's good. Because I
Yeah.
know through festivals you can get distribution and then, go to bigger channels and everything. So
Knock
that's
on wood, yeah. We're
it's
still
a
working on that. Yeah.
it's I feel I can definitely see that happening too, for sure.
Yeah, I really hope so. Yeah, I believe it has its audience, but we just need to find it, you know.
What do you
Yeah.
consider part two? Now that I said it, I mentioned it.
Um, Candidly, probably not. Because I think part of the appeal, I mean, I don't know how much I should talk about the ending if you're gonna post this, but part of the appeal about the ending is that it's in the eyes of the beholder a little bit.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't want answers necessarily.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And what are the themes that you think the film wants to bring out to the audience when they watch it?
I mean, to be honest with you, I really tried to approach this movie without um really antagonizing any people. Like I understand that I obviously have a position that's like, you know, I don't believe that you should ostracize people if they become pregnant as a teenager.
Mm.
But at the same time, I think so much of the conversation about, women's rights to abortion and even other subjects have become such toxic debates.
Mm.
No one can hear anybody who disagrees with them even a little bit. And I really wanted to start this conversation from a place of kind of bridge building, because my character ultimately, not a spoiler because she's pregnant in the movie, she decides to keep this baby, but like even so she clearly like you know, on this side of the debate, but like even so with making this choice that's deemed the only right one, she's faced with things she doesn't necessarily expect in this situation. And yeah, I really hope that people who don't necessarily see eye to eye with me can watch this movie and be like, well, perhaps she has a point. And also what's very important for me to note is like I'm not from Texas, but the story is based on real stories of people who were pregnant, both in Texas and outside. Like I didn't make any of this up. Um,
Mm.
and we screened the movie in Austin recently, and someone felt like teenage pregnancy is so acceptable now. And but it was an older man, and sure it's perhaps not as demonized because we talk about it more, but in the shoes of a young girl in this position, it's not necessarily acceptable.
Yeah.
It's not easy to be these people.
Hmm.
Um, Especially in like very religious communities where, reputation like this is unfortunately like important, or unfortunately, no comment about that, but like it's important and it does affect a young girl's life in particular. And 15 is so young. Like you're figuring out so much.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like how you said you're doing it as a bridge. That's actually really a good positive
Yeah.
um message for sure.
Yeah.
What are you planning to do next after you go to the different festivals? Do you have any other films planning up to do, or what are you planning to do next?
Um, yeah, I'm working on a few things. I can't really talk about either, but I'll put it in this way. I have some eggs in different baskets, but with the film industry, you never know what's actually next. So we shall see.
Great. Well, thank you so much for speaking to me. I wish you all the best with the film and everything else that you do. And I'll definitely be keeping an eye on how this film goes because it was great. I really enjoyed watching it. So thank you.
Fine. Thank you very much. I'm really glad you liked it.
Thank you. Yeah.